We can't let Ukraine fall, because if it does, then there's a significant likelihood that America will have to get into the conflict. Not simply with our money, but with our servicewomen and our servicemen.
That was House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries on U.S. Network TV this past Sunday. His comments seem to echo those issued over the past few days by France's President Emmanuel Macron, who refused to rule out sending Western troops to Ukraine. Last week, he suggested that NATO would legitimately have to ask whether to deploy troops to that country. That raises serious questions in the face of Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov's warning that the deployment of NATO troops to Ukraine would make a direct conflict between Russia and the U.S.-led military bloc, quote, inevitable, closed quote. Also last week, the UK's Foreign Secretary David Cameron said that Ukraine has every right to use British weapons to strike targets deep inside Russia. The UK's ambassador to Russia, Nigel Casey, was then summoned to the Russian Foreign Ministry. The ministry issued a statement following that meeting, quote, Casey was warned that the response to Ukrainian strikes using British weapons on Russian territory could be any British military facilities on the territory of Ukraine and beyond, closed quote. Along with these developments, NATO is in the midst of the largest war games since the Cold War, with more than 90,000 troops and massive amounts of hardware, including rockets, planes, tanks, and weaponry of all types, placed at the borders of Russia in Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, Poland, and Georgia. Sweden and Hungary are also participating, according to the NATO website. On Monday, Moscow announced it was going to begin military exercises in response to test the capability of its tactical nuclear forces to defend against any NATO invasion. To unpack all of this, we go to Moscow to speak with analyst Mark Sleboda. Mark?
So, I'll add one more to that list. Reporting today, Stephen Bryan in the Asia Times, who has generally very much kept on top of this particular topic. France sends combat troops to Ukraine battlefront. The initial French Foreign Legion detachment of 100 troops under official French flag has been sent to Slavyansk in East Ukraine as of today. I believe that they have previously sent troops to Slavyansk unofficially, but if this report is correct, then France has made the first step of NATO member state troops, sending troops directly into Ukraine without the guise of them being there as mercenaries, humanitarian aid workers, or trainers and advisors, or other non-boots on the ground. These are official boots on the ground, and these are supposed to be the first of some 1,500, which is meant to be the first of some 20,000. A number of developments. First, the United Kingdom, the Defense Ministry made clear in the beginning, at the end of last week, now that they were, not that it had ever really been in effect, but they were allowing the Kiev regime to use their long-range weapons, and here we're principally talking about Storm Shadow cruise missiles, inside Russian territory, meaning pre-2014 undisputed Russian territory. And this is the first time that they will have said that directly. Previously, they had no problems using Storm Shadows in Crimea or, say, the Donbass, Kherson, or Zaporozhye, but now they're talking about stripes deep inside Russia. And I think we need to make clear when we talk about these strikes that this is British strikes on Russia.
We're saying basically we have British soldiers firing British weapons on Russia's border into Russia.
Into Russia. That's what we're talking about now, direct war. And Russia has recognized that now. With this official statement, Russia has replied that this is a dangerous escalation, even if it was already occurring de facto. Now it's official, and Russia said that if this occurs, then they will feel free to, and they will not only target British units, military units, and facilities, not just in Ukraine, but in Ukraine and beyond.
So Russia acknowledging this, I'm reminded of what Bobby Kennedy wrote after the so-called Cuban Missile Crisis in October 1962. The lesson learned that he and his brother, President John Kennedy, agreed was the lesson: never put a nuclear-armed power into a position where they have to suffer a humiliating defeat or go to nuclear war. And what we're talking here, when they announce to the world they are attacking us, if we don't respond, that's about as humiliating a defeat as it gets.
Yeah, well, it's on both sides, right? Because NATO has put its own reputation and credibility on the line. We had Boris Johnson say the quiet part out loud last week, that it is U.S.-led Western hegemony is on the line. That's the way they view this. Yeah. And they've said NATO cannot lose, Russia cannot win enough times, that they are as invested or they feel they are as invested at this point. So the conflict is now viewed as existential and world order changing for both sides. To add to this list, we have now a Democratic member of Congress, Hakeem Jeffries, saying in an interview to CBS that if Ukraine looks set to fall, then U.S. servicemen and women may have to be sent to Ukraine because Russia cannot be allowed to win. And this is the first time that I have heard an American politician say this out loud in such a way.
A Democrat and a member of the Congressional Black Caucus and the Speaker in waiting.
Yeah. It is a very significant statement. I, of course, do not believe that we will hear similar things out of Biden's mouth until after November. Because his reelection is, or the reelection of Jake Sullivan and Antony Blinken, who are really running the country right now, is in question. So I think Europe is on their own until November. After the election, then everything is fine. But Russia has further responded to what it views as these escalations by the West by announcing tactical nuclear weapon military drills. And it is outright saying that this is in response to the potential of NATO troops being sent into Ukraine. They are quite literally and deliberately saber rattling.
And this is, in fact, a dance, because you understand this better than I do with military background, but the NATO drills move people and equipment into the position to do an invasion. And so the only way it's a drill is if they stop at the border. And the only way the people on the other side of the border will know if it's a drill or not, because it looks exactly the same as an invasion to them, is if they stop at the border. And when you do a retaliatory, dance with them, like this is going to be our response, you're positioning the weaponry and the personnel to do that response in the event they cross the border. And so what we're saying basically is NATO's putting 90,000 troops on the border and moving towards Russia, and Russia is lighting up some tactical nuclear weapons to take them out if they cross the border. And so we're holding our breath.
This is the largest NATO military drills since the 1980s, since the Cold War. This ongoing steadfast defender involving more than 90,000 NATO troops, all up and down the Russian border, from the Baltics to Scandinavia, and of course down into Poland. These massive military drills have actually been going on since January. They haven't been reported on very much, but there is an immense amount of NATO troops, and military equipment and air assets involved in these drills. They're a full spectrum military drills, and Russia has accused these military drills of being a NATO preparation for conflict with Russia in Ukraine. And historically, military drills have often been used as a preparatory cover work for an actual intervention. So that is where we are.
Yeah. Wow. That's not a good place. All right, Mark, thanks a lot. We'll speak with you again next week if we're all here.
Yes. Thank you.
For KPFK, I'm Don DeBar.